Okay, everybody, it is time for Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. I hope you're enjoying this wonderful heat spell. It gives you an opportunity to be sure that the electricity is working correctly and that you are indeed with a little bit more than common sense and you're not standing around outside running up and down and exercising and doing those things that will probably make you end up in the hospital and overwork our doctors and stuff. So be cool, stay inside, don't do anything foolish. But you may think that foolish is not foolish if you've looked at how foolish our people in Thailand are willing to be. I mean, folks are willing to risk their lives to go in here and save some children who, Boy Scouts out on a little trip decided to go up in a cave. Rain caught them, trapped them in there. 12 young men and their coach, soccer team. We've been in there about 2 weeks. We've got Navy SEALs. We've got people from all over the country, all over the world, actually coming in to help these boys. I feel good about it. That's the kind of thing that I want to open the show up to let you guys know we are still working with each other. We still care about each other. We are still willing to do things that demonstrate, not just conversate, but demonstrate an element of love for our fellow man. And it's important that we bring that up because we hear so much news about things that are driving us apart. Things that are pushing us into the direction that says we don't care about each other. I don't like you, you don't like me, and as a result, I don't care what happens to your kids and vice versa. But we're not going to get very far with that kind of attitude. So once again, I'm subscribing to the concept of don't bring me no bad news. Of course, sometimes it seems bad. But when it inspires you, lets you realize that bad news is only an indication of the opportunity that you have to demonstrate your relationship with God, your relationship with the planet, your relationship with each other. Because that relationship is the one that lets us be successful in life. That relationship is the one that allows us to be glue in places where it's raggedy and coming apart. People that moving into Thailand to help rescue these young men, they represent the glue of the planet. They represent the people who are willing to step outside of their normal lane and reach out to do something to help someone else. And folks, those are the people that we all have to ultimately be, and I think all of us have some element of that in us. Even the people that you disagree with. That's really important to understand that people that you disagree with are as passionate about their feelings as you are about yours. And the idea of being able to use this great brain, this area that occupies the space between both your ears, that suggests that we are a little bit above norm, above the basic animal instinct, and that we have the ability to think and be critical about that thinking. We need all of the evidence for us to figure out what's right and wrong. We don't need all of the story to determine that there's enough of it missing that we can kind of figure out what it is if we decide to, and use that information to show the world that we are together and that we've got our stuff together. It's not all scattered and hitting the side of the seat. We're going to cover a few things today, but all of those things will point back again to your power to control your life, your influence on the people that are next door to you, and how they influence you, and how we need to be talking to each other and not just speculating about how other people feel. I was speaking with a school administrator this week, and despite how happy we are in June as people are graduating, the school administrator pointed out to me that we are still graduating students because they spent time in class. We're still graduating students because they're maybe a little too old to be kept back. We're still graduating students who are not qualified to do the job that you may want to hire them to do. But I don't know exactly what to say about that, except that systems can work for us and they can work against us. One of the things that we've got to remember in America is that freedom is not a noun. It's a verb. It's something we have to work to make happen. It doesn't just package itself and come and run up to you. And here we are in America, the greatest nation on the planet, as far as my memory is concerned, and the way I was raised up to love freedom, and the way I was raised up to expect that it's not going to be free, but that we have done a lot of things to pay for it in the past. I am wondering what we are going to do when we keep being provided with the opportunity to ignore each other, to be cold-blooded with each other. Once again, I'm enthused to see people step up. I'm enthused to see that even with our schools, as we're looking at how poor our students are really doing, this administrator didn't blame the teachers. This administrator didn't blame the system, didn't blame the public, didn't blame the parents. But she did blame everybody. You know, she didn't say one was worse than the other, but if we don't, as a team, get together, what we're going to do, if we keep graduating people who are not qualified, that means one day you're going to get in a plane. What? Shouldn't the pilot be qualified? Should the pilot of the plane be, kind of marginal? You know, he did okay in school. He did all right in flight class. He paid a little bit of attention. You know, he's 50-50. You want to get on an airplane and fly under the auspices of the pilot being 50-50? I think not, folks. We have to move toward excellence. Those are the things that we promise ourselves. Those are the things that we expect of our children. We expect of the police. We expect of the mayor. We want our president to be, well, I don't know. He told you in the beginning how he was going to be. So once again, we as people have responsibilities, but those responsibilities are actually opportunities. We go back to the school situation. Everybody wants us to be bright. There was a time in America when African Americans were not allowed to learn to read. Anyone who was caught helping an African American learn to read was, they were breaking the law. Our young children don't remember that. They weren't here, and if they don't go to school and we don't educate them, they'll have no idea that education is not something that is guaranteed. It's guaranteed, but if you don't receive it, if you don't absorb it, if you don't reach out to make it be part of you, it's the same as not having it. So whose fault is that? Is that the teacher who's getting paid? Is that the administrator who's getting paid? Is that the school security who's getting paid? Is that the parent who's getting paid? Well, I'm not getting paid. Well, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Don't tell me that Kyle comes home and smiles and grins you and hugs you around the neck, that's not payment. That doesn't make you feel good, that doesn't make you feel obligated, to do something to be sure that kid eats well, sleeps well, and goes out and performs well and comes back home and gives you a hug again. Now, those of you who aren't getting the hugs, we'll have another session for you, because you should be giving some hugs, because if you aren't getting any hugs, chances are you aren't giving any hugs. We need to change all of that. We need to be willing to step up into those places where we haven't done before. We need to understand other people's viewpoints. We need to understand their lacks. We need to understand their overages. We need to be willing to understand each other. Now, what's stronger than a mother-son bond? I don't know. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's housing. There's a lady who shot her son a couple of days ago. She was 92. He was 72. She had moved in with him and his girlfriend about 6 months ago. I take it that means she was homeless. But according to the police, this woman shot her son because he was talking about sending her to a assisted living circumstance. When I first heard that, my thoughts were, well, maybe he's living in her house with her, and no, she's living in his house with him, his mother, but she's 92. Maybe they didn't get along, or maybe he just felt that there is some situation here. Our society is willing to make places and spaces for senior citizens, and Mom, he'd probably be more comfortable there. I don't know why she shot him, but she shot him. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about getting along. We're going to talk about why we don't get along, and I've got a sharp young attorney here, Mr. Stacy Augustine, who we're going to introduce him, give you a chance to talk with him, and hear how young people, because I'm past 30. You guys think that maybe some of the things that I talk about are a little strange. So I'm bringing in some young blood. Give you a chance to talk to them. Miss Tammy Martin Rouse is here today, and don't miss the Mood Master. Mr. Anthony Garcia is here. Mood Master is here. We've been missing him, and I think he's going to be able to tell us that he's working somewhere tonight that we can get a chance to come over and hear him play. This is Empire Talks Back. We'll be back right after this short break.
KCAA.
I never planned on losing my job, but we all know life can change in an instant. And losing my family's health insurance was an even tougher pill to swallow. So I looked into Cobra, but too pricey. Then I found out I could enroll through Covered California, where I was able to choose from good health insurance companies I've actually heard of. I even got help paying for it.
There's a limited time to qualify after losing your insurance, so check out CoveredCA.com today. Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
This is KCAA.
Greetings, folks. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, and as I stated before the break, I brought in Mr. Stacy Augustine Law, and he is, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to bring up a few subjects here and see if my perception of what's legal and what's good is in line with what the law says, and it's important for you guys to have an expert here, because I will go off. Stacy, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You recently, you're a San Bernardino person. You're an Inland Empire person. Give us a little background about yourself.
Okay. Well, my parents. Let me move this closer.
Yeah.
My parents moved to Rialto when I was about 3 in 1989, and I've been, I was raised for Rialto for most of my life. Basically raised there, and now I live in Highland with my wife. But I've been in Inland Empire my whole life, despite going to school in a couple of different states for a brief period of time. But yeah.
Okay, you got kids?
Yes, I have 3 kids. One, Stacy the third is 7. My daughter Alex is 4, and I have a 1-year-old named Charlie.
Charlie.
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations to you and your wife. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And that's with my beautiful wife, Marnisha August, and we've been married. We'll be married 10 years next year. So.
Congratulations. Very
Thank
good.
you. Appreciate it.
So, what made you move into the field of law?
That's kind of a funny story. I would say the earliest thing that I can think about was when I was a young kid. I got in a lot of trouble, believe it or not. People can't believe that now when they see me more polished, but I was definitely the kid in the office and
the school at the principal's office.
I was the one that they threw away that was supposed to go to jail or prison, and people just kind of gave up on at a very young age. But when I would get in trouble, I always had something to say. I had a reason why I was doing what I was doing, and I was too young for them to actually give me a chance to talk. So I said, I want to be a lawyer so that when I get in front of that judge, nobody can shut me up. I get a chance to let my voice be heard. But,
okay.
And now that I'm older, I realize that wasn't the best position to take. You got, when you're speaking to an adult, you just shut up and,
Well, now that's interesting, because all of us are usually impressed by the child who speaks up, especially if it's some other child speaking up to some other adult. And I think you're right. Many of us feel threatened when we are approached by real smart young people, and unfortunately by real smart people who don't agree with us. So I'm wondering what would have happened had you been the obedient child who did everything that you were told. Do you think you'd be a lawyer at this point? maybe you did have a nice corporate job somewhere. You probably your mother and father come from an era that I think they could probably come from the era that says I brought you in and I'll take you out.
Oh, absolutely. I heard.
So you were going to be okay one way or another.
I grew up hearing the Marvin Gaye story from my father.
Okay.
Heard that more than once. My parents are both from Watts, and
that is not funny. That is not funny. Go ahead, tell that story, but it's not funny. Tell it.
What story? What are you
about Marvin Gaye? About your dad and telling you about threatening you, not threatening you, but informing you.
I don't know how serious he was about it. I think he was just more letting me know that don't ever think you're too big and you're going to disrespect me. So respect was a big thing with my father. He did instill at a very early age. So and my mother also, again, they're both from Watts. They came from a very tough time, and I was raised with from a strong hand from both parents, and they didn't take a lot of mess from me. And
so maybe that's why when you got to school you felt a little free.
Well, maybe, but I got in trouble at home and I got in trouble at school.
Okay.
I wasn't a bad kid. It's just the decisions that I made are being picked on and having a chip on your shoulder to try to get people off of you, you know what I mean? But I didn't really answer your question. You said, would I be where I'm at today? To become an attorney, it takes a lot of perseverance, but some people get there easier. Maybe the kids that are very, very intelligent, they can really do whatever they want to do if they wanted to do that. So I'm not really that person, so I can't really speak to whether I would have became an attorney, but I would say that my personality is strong. Is just how I'm kind of wired, and that allowed me to persevere. And then when people said, hey, you can't do this, say, well, I don't really care what you think. Okay. This is what I'm doing. This is what God has called me to do. And so I would say that my personality did help me get to where I'm at. Yeah.
Who would you look at and say was an inspiration in your life?
I would definitely say my parents are an inspiration for, and that's a general saying because my mom always told me, you can be whatever you want in life if you put your mind to it. But along the way, it was very important that there was a couple of teachers that stick out to me that really, actually I would say about 3 distinct people that sometimes when the world is kind of swaying back and forth and there's a few people in your life that you really remember that you're like, you know what, this person saw something in me that nobody else saw, and that kind of helped push you to where you're going to be in life. So definitely 3 distinct people that I can think off the top of my head.
These are people that mentored, helped you in school, things of that sort?
Yes, one of them, Mr. Ronay, I think he still teaches at Rialto High School.
It's good to say that name.
Absolutely. First one would be Mr. Ronay. He taught at Rialto High School when I was a senior there. I had transferred back from Etiwanda High School back to Rialto High School. The next person that comes to mind is Tim Lemus. He was a JV basketball coach at Rialto High School. I'm sorry, at Etiwanda High School. So he coached me along with a couple of NBA players from the local area that went to Etiwanda. He always saw, something special in me, and he always let that known, and that really helped motivate me to be, a better person. The last person would be my other coach, Anthony Jones at Rialto High School. He's now the assistant coach at San Bernardino Valley College, assistant basketball coach, and he immediately saw something in me that he wanted to nurture and develop. And to this day, we're still friends. So I go see the games and I say hi. I introduce him to my family and everything like that. But yeah, those 3 people most definitely.
So how has that impact in your life affected you and how you deal with younger people? Are you mentoring anyone? Are you looking forward to doing that? How do you feel about that? I know you've been, well, tell us a little bit more about your experience, because I know you recently passed the bar, but you've been in business for some time.
Right. My experience probably can motivate a lot of other people, because you hear some people say, well, I've got that one class I need to take, or I need another semester of school to finish school, but I couldn't do that because I had a child or because I'm working. I'm the person that did everything at once. I started my paralegal business and eventually got my private investigator's license, and that was, I had to have been about 21, 22. I started law school in 2008. That same year I started my paralegal company. Then I went on to get my private investigator's license, like I said. I got married a year later. So while I was in law school, I got married and ended up having 2 of my children in law school, one after law school studying for the bar. So not only was I self-employed, I was taking care of a family, I was running a business full-time, and it was very difficult, but it showed me a lot of perseverance. And on top of that, after only the first year of our marriage, my wife worked. So I was the sole provider financially, again, and doing all the other things that I talked about. So it shows that it can be done if you keep your focus there and you have faith in God that He'll bring you through it.
Do you think anybody could do it, or do you acknowledge that there was maybe, as the people who mentored you and inspired you noted, there was something special? I mean, how special is what you've done? Do you expect that others can do that? Does this leave compassion for you as you look at what other people are doing, or does it toughen you up and make you say, hey, I walked across the desert barefooted, and you guys should be able to do it too? How does that affect your compassion for other people's situations, Stacy?
Well, the way that I look at life is that what you do for a living is not what makes you valuable or makes you special. Not everyone is wired or meant to be a lawyer or a doctor. Some people may work a more what society would call like a modest job. Maybe they work for the county, or I even know people that are, work more in like maintenance jobs. And I have a high respect for those people that can work that job to the extent that they can retire and they're taking care of their children, their family. My experience is more of, regardless of what you desire to become, it's more about reaching your potential and what you desire to do, and not allowing circumstance to keep you from reaching your goal. So that's the way that I would answer that.
Very good. And I say good because I always say that. Everything is good because if you're here, you're in a position to make things better. If you've made it this far, many of us have traveled across roads that are really rough. We don't even know they're rough because we traveled them and did well at them. The idea, though, that being a lawyer, representing other people's concerns and how they got in situations, it demands a certain amount of, I guess, compassion and understanding from people. In general, how do you feel about people?
How do I feel about people? I think. What do you?
Well, let me go. Let me go into this. How do you feel about? Okay, Stacy, we are in America. We are in, I think, the greatest country on the planet, but we have a constant backdrop of people who are discriminated against because of their color. You are an attorney. We have had a recently, because of social media, we've had an acknowledgement of how many people in the country, white people, are uncomfortable seeing black people in certain situations, and they have called the police on them. And it's almost funny, but it's not funny. It's kind of like the Marvin Gaye situation. We love Marvin, and we understand his dad was in charge, but killing Marvin was not and his father, I'm sure, at this point or at another point would acknowledge that's not what he wanted to do. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'd like for us to talk a little bit more about how we can deal with the circumstances like you dealt with your law school situation. It's rough and it's tough, but you got through it. How do we deal with an America that sometimes appreciates who we are and many times can surprise us as we're comfortable with excuse me, lady, can I see your ID? Why are you in this private swimming pool area? And so we'll be right back. We'll talk about how we deal with our inconveniences, how we deal with those hills that appear to be obstacles, but after we cross them, they tend to be things that just assets in our life. We'll talk to you later. Thank you. We'll be right back.
KCAA.
Covered California knows that one moment can change your life. That moment you say, I do. That moment you meet your baby for the first time. Or even that moment you lose your job and your health insurance along with it. For those times when life changes, we've got you covered. Covered California lets you choose from brand name health plans, and you may even get help paying for it. Your enrollment period is limited, so find out if you qualify by getting free expert help at coveredca.com today. Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
KCAA.
We're back. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. Tammy Martin Rouse has been lecturing me during the break. You guys should be on her Facebook page so that you don't miss any of that. And Mr. Stacey Augustine, Attorney Stacey Augustine, Esquire, is with us today. We want to go into some of the things here about our privileges here on the planet and our getting along with people who sometimes don't want to get along with us. But if we're going to do it right, we have to learn how to. I don't know. I met a man once, Mr. Clarence Muse, a great actor. And Clarence's theme and statement was that, I've never met a person intelligent enough to insult me. I'll say it so you can understand me. I've never met a person intelligent enough to insult me. I think that he's probably met plenty of people, and I know he did, plenty of people who thought they were intelligent enough to insult him, and they attempted to do so. But it's like when somebody calls and says, "Hey, you." If you don't answer, if they're not talking to you, why would you answer? So Mr. Muse was the one who said, if what you're saying doesn't apply to me, I'm not even worried about it. And he assumed that position of superior to anyone's ignorance. How do we deal with the situation? We just had a lady in North Carolina, professional lady, lived in a very exclusive private complex, resort type complex, where where you have to have keys to get in all of your little amenities. She was in the pool area, and man came up to her and asked her for her ID. I said, well, did you ask anybody else for ID? Well, no, but you need your ID. Ultimately, the guy called the police on her. I applaud the police. They seem to be getting a little bit better. When the police came, they investigated. They didn't just come in and do his bidding. They came in, investigated, found out that the woman, she lives here. She's got the keys to the thing just like he does. But he wanted her kicked out. Well, he ultimately lost his position as pool chairman at the resort, and he ultimately lost his job with the company called Sonico because the woman had her telephone, social media captured the moment and the time, and as a result, we were able to get some opinions other than those people right there, and this man was fired. This woman was surprised. She's a very well-educated, got a high-paying job, and lives in an exclusive building. She's not looking forward to that, and I'm sure that she may have felt, at some point, hey, this isn't going to happen to me, America's great, blah, blah, blah. Surprised by those kind of things does not mean America isn't great. And it doesn't mean that, all white people are crazy and racist and trying to, kill us off. But it does alert you to the fact that there was a need to create a 13th and 14th Amendment after the Civil War, because the Civil War was one of the efforts of the Civil War, pulled people out of slavery, out of forced labor. We built America, but we didn't get paid for it at that point, and some people are still upset and angry about that. Now, Miss Tammy's telling me, Tammy, come sit up here so that you don't be, so you don't have to give those hand signals, and so people don't think that I'm, just moving without authority here. Stacey, that incident is one of many incidents that people have had occurred to them of white people calling the police on them. First of all, as an attorney, what's your response to that if one of your clients or someone wanting to be a client called you and said that something of that nature occurred to them?
Well, I would first give a disclaimer that my practice focuses on personal injury, family law, and general practice. I'm not a civil rights attorney, so I don't know all the caveats on how to go about those sort of incidences specifically. But I think that we've gotten to a place in this society that's very sensitive to race-related matters. I think that we're at a place where blatant racism is just not tolerated. I really do believe that, as you saw, this person lost his job,
Yes.
and people are becoming more sensitive and moving more cautiously when they're dealing with race-related issues, especially with African Americans. So I think he probably should have lost his. I think you should have lost his job for sure. And because I haven't read the story yet, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But if someone takes away someone's services just based off their race, that is not right, and that should not be tolerated at all.
I think you made a statement that's really important, that racism, blatant racism, appears not to be so easily tolerated in America now. So as we see these incidents, some people say we bring them up because it's bad news. No, we bring them up to point out the good news portion. The good news portion is how America is reacting to these things when they see it come up, much like the gathering of people in Thailand to help save these young boys. Much like some people are real concerned about what's going on with immigration. I know that I spoke to a young man earlier this week who was pointing out that the immigration issue is very bad, but he was upset because people were comparing the immigration issue to the miseries caused in slavery, and maybe the pain is a little bit there, but slavery affected America tremendously. It made America really great. Free labor. Every businessman will tell you that, man, some free labor. If I could have a couple of weeks of free labor, maybe I'd be able to get my business ahead. How we reconcile those things, let me go back and say, using 911 to call the police on someone is a very serious matter. And in California, we actually have a law against that. So if you get caught harassing someone through 911, there's a law in California that prevents that. Now, we've had a couple of incidents of 911 misuse, and those people haven't gone to jail, and I'm not trying to say that everybody should end up going to jail, but I do appreciate that some of the tough things that are going on are really showing us that America is indeed strong and growing. People I guess if you don't have a question, you can't come up with a solution or an answer. Problems really make those things come alive for us. Tammy?
Yes.
What do you think?
What do I think about what? And I'm going to just take a portion
Please.
of what you said, because you said a lot. Now, if you were talking about the case that there were a lot of things that, and I'm not going to talk long on it, but the things that were evident of why those things happen is, number one, the rules were right there on the gate, and they just said sign in. There was no one there to sign in, and it didn't require any ID. The second thing, those officers were not quote-unquote real officers. They were community officers, and so obviously, they're probably not going to come with the force, because that's not, they're not designed that way. And then second, she had a key card. Mm-hmm. She had a key card. And so she had an entry into the pool, and they asked to see her key card, and they swiped it, and the gate opened. So it was like, why would she have a key card? And why you don't have these rules? So I think having people that are just going through the basics, and it was just really simple. So simple subject, simple, moving. But I think as far as it's a process. It's a process we're going to have to go through. We're not going to end whatever we're going through overnight. So I think the attorney could probably, he probably has a lot of examples of just stuff that he deals with of a process that is not going to occur overnight, that you see that are, that are stereotypical things that go on in court. I mean, you can just go on and on and on.
But we're not here to be discouraged. I guess that's the main thing that I want to say, is that there are things out here that are discouraging if you just wallow in that.
Yeah.
But if you go through the whole motion, you'll, I think, end up encouraged. I think you'll end up enthused about what the future is. Let's get back to you, Stacy, and talk a little bit more about your practice and your abilities to help make the Inland Empire a little bit better. What kind of cases are you doing, and what is it that you can do to help people?
Okay, what I I wouldn't say specialize, but where my practice focus is family law, personal injury, and general practice. So general practice covers a wide range of issues. So if someone has a legal concern, they can call my office. All my consultations are free, and I can say, hey, I can help you with this matter, or you know what, I have another attorney that specializes in what you need, such as like immigration. I don't do immigration. That is, people have to understand that there's 100 different areas of law. You've got immigration attorneys, you've got criminal law specialists, you have constitutional experts, and my focus is personal injury and family law. And I do civil litigation and things of that nature in a general sense, but some things I don't specialize in. So,
in terms of family law, one of the reasons that and as we spoke earlier about the elder situation where the elderly lady was upset that her son was speaking of having her move into an assisted living. I noticed that you do probate.
yes.
What are your concerns with senior citizens and their ability to run their lives? I guess we have the opportunity. People have the opportunity to come in and declare a senior citizen as not being capable of handling their affairs. Are you involved in that type of?
Yes, the problem with that is once you get to that point, the elderly person that at that point in time probably may not have that much time left to live. They no longer, if their mental faculties aren't there, they cannot set up their estate. Their wishes as to who is to get what is kind of moot at that point, because if they don't have capacity, they can't sign a will, they can't set up a trust.
How do we determine their capacity? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Much like the situation, or possibly is where you have an older person who says, I'm capable of doing things, and you've got a son and a daughter that may be observing and saying, no, you're not, and this young person who's moved into your life telling you that you're beautiful and they want to marry you are just trying to take your money, and you've seen situations like that.
So how do they develop? How do you develop? How do you know?
It is a very complicated situation that would take much longer than the time that we have here. But I would suggest in those circumstances to contact a lawyer, because it's a case-by-case basis. Sometimes what can be helpful is if that person's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia. However, at the same time, someone could have some issues with their mental capacity, but they have a moment of lucidity, have a moment of they're all there. And I have a colleague attorney that just went to trial on that issue. It's extremely complicated.
Yes.
And it's a case-by-case basis. They have to speak with an attorney to figure out what's best. The thing that's more important than that is, while you have your mental faculties, to get your estate prepared, get a living trust, or have a will. A trust has a lot of benefits if you have property. Otherwise, because the problem is that even in our community, the African American community, a lot of people do not set up their estate. And I'll tell you right now, I talked to an attorney one time outside the courthouse, and he was looking over some documents. I said, "What do you have there?" He says, it was either a will or a trust. He said, we ran across it. I said, well, that's good. Now you know who gets what. He says, no, you don't understand. That's not what we want. We don't want them to know. We don't want a will. We don't want any documentation for this. We want them to go into court where the estate has to be probated, because that's how we make our money. So
we'll
have
be right
the attorneys
back.
walking around with 50% of the assets.
We're going to be right back. We're going to take a short break. Mr. Augustine just told you something. I told you something very important in terms of your future, in terms of planning our lives, and that may be where we'll go for our solutionary aspect of the show. We'll be back right after this short break. Come back to speak to Mr. Stacey Augustine about something that affects all of us. We're all going to die sooner or later, and what happens with your stuff. Hopefully you have a plan. We'll be back right after this.
KCAA.
Covered California knows that one moment can change your life. That moment you say, I do. That moment you meet your baby for the first time. Or even that moment you lose your job and your health insurance along with it. For those times when life changes, we've got you covered. Covered California lets you choose from brand name health plans, and you may even get help paying for it. Your enrollment period is limited, so find out if you qualify by getting free expert help at coveredca.com today. Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care.
Not something you're going to solve, but it is something that you
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
Thank you, Riverside County, for listening to KCAA 102.3 FM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
This is Empire Talks Back. We are anxious and happy to be here with you today. I have attorney Stacey Augustine. We have Miss Tammy Martin Rouse of the Black Biz of the don't say it, don't say it, don't
say a word.
Okay, of the Black Business Chamber Inland Empire. Is that right?
You know you said it wrong, but it's okay. I accept that. I'm gonna let you do your homework.
People should be able to get along with people who make mistakes.
I'm getting along with you. BCCIE. If you remember them acronyms, tattoo it in your brain.
Black Business Chamber of Inland Empire.
BCC. B Black. There's a C that comes out.
Chamber of
Commerce Inland Empire.
See how much time you just got?
BCCIE.
See how much time your company just got?
I'm trying to. I know you.
But I acknowledge I should have done better. We were talking with Mr. Augustine earlier about a will. We're talking about a plan. We're talking about a person who successfully negotiated their life, created some assets that they want to pass along to their family. We could talk about that in terms of a trust, but I think we're trying to get parallel and deal with the issues of trust in our total community and the issue of living and having access to the freedoms that we're supposed to have and being able to pass that on to our children also. We want to call that civilization. So as we have to deal with our personal lives, we also have to deal with our public lives, and they do come together. The African American family is everybody. I'm on my way to a reunion in Chicago next week, and I'm going to have my relatives, and we'll have very, very dark-skinned people, and we'll have people who could have passed for white. And it's all in the same family. Mm-hmm. And we argue and play and do this and we do that, but it's the same family. We have people in the family who look Korean, who look Asian, who look Swedish. So in my family, in the family of African Americans, our experience tells us that everybody really is acceptable based on how they look.
So what's the question, Walt?
Well, it's not a question, it's a point.
What's the point?
The point, again, is that we are everybody. And despite whatever things people throw up between us to divide us, from within the family, where we're looking at what do we do with our properties, to the bigger family and looking at what do we do with our properties.
Okay.
How do we get along with each other? Are we trusting? Are we looking forward to bringing out the things that make us trust and work? You just pointed out how in Mississippi today, you can go back to Louisiana, I can go back to Mississippi. Actually, I can go into Los Angeles and find a place where people look at me strange because I'm there. And they'll look at me strange because I'm there as a black person. How I act is important. How they're acting is important. How we get along is why we're sitting here talking. We know that we have issues that drive people apart, and we have issues that bring us together. I'm here to celebrate the attitude that makes everybody go to Thailand right now and try to save those boys who are caught in that cave. I'm wanting us to be sensitive to the people who are trying to make a better living for themselves, make a better life for themselves by coming into the place that we all admire and brag about, that being America. And understanding that there are some people who are left thinking that they're deprived because back in the 1600s they took all away my free work labor. Right now, when I try to go get a job, it appears to be some affirmative action plan that's there to benefit women or minorities. And so if I'm a white man, I think I've got some reasons to be a little upset also. And as a black man, I've got to understand that. When we sit down together, and that's what we need to do, we should have some sensitivity about each other's issues and problems. I have grandchildren.
Okay, but wait a minute before you get on your grandkids.
No, but I'm saying that's why I'm concerned. So go ahead. Sure.
No, I'm just saying, let's stick at the matter at hand right now with the lawyer while we have him here. Like, you made a couple of points.
He's here to guest to help me make my point. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, so what can we direct towards him that what he sees in the future as far as, because you know, you're not going to change the way people are raised, Wallace. I know you want to bring it all together.
We want to change how they're raised, but we do want to.
But we can't do that. I can't go inside of your house and tell you how to raise your kids and do all of that.
But they send them to you at your school, and you're the teacher, and you be telling them there.
No, I cannot, and I cannot tell. I can only impose what I pose, but I cannot tell parents how to raise their kids. I just can't.
But you demonstrate that as a teacher, and the kids pay attention to you.
I have order. And so with my order, there's things that they can and cannot do in class, but I cannot impose my values on them. They can watch me, but I can't say this is what I need you to do personally, because we do not and cannot do that.
Okay.
So they can watch me, but I mean, as far as
Mr. Augustine.
Yeah, Augustine is concerned. I mean, what do you see? Because he deals with family, and I'm quite sure he deals with families that are blended. And families, because I know you probably are dealing with a lot of stuff where, okay, the reason why we have these breakdowns is maybe because of backgrounds in families that cause a lot of friction. Am I correct?
Well,
yes. Yes.
Okay, one of the cases he was telling me about.
Okay.
Because he asked me, he said, "Hey, have you guys been bothered by these people who come in and pretend to access your building and they can't because you don't have special talk about that?"
Oh, okay. You're talking about the ADA complaints. The Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
It requires you to have your business to be accessible. Handicap accessible or wheelchair accessible, so you have to have the appropriate parking spaces, appropriate dimensions. Your counter at your establishment has to be no more than 36 inches, I believe, high, and there's other requirements.
You should be able to accommodate those people regardless of their handicap or their disability. Just like African Americans are supposed to be able to go into any store after this, after the civil rights movement here. What's wrong with that law and way people are effectively working the benefits of that law?
Well, the problem is that people are, you have plaintiffs that have people basically driving by restaurants or businesses that they're not really attempting to patronize, and they're filing lawsuits right and left all over the place, and they're very expensive. You have to hire an attorney.
Because they can see that compliance isn't there with the ramps, etc.
Yes, or, if they file a lawsuit that's frivolous and they didn't really see any violations, and that can be definitely going to be a problem in court. But a lot of times there is exploitation with the plaintiffs, and it really hurts the economy because it hurts businesses. It hurts the mom and pop shops. It hurts the self-employed businesses, and that's what runs the country.
So we have people who take advantage, misadvantage, and as a result, sometimes they'll hide behind race, they'll hide behind racism, or will project race and racism into the deal. But based on our family structure in the African American family, we don't blame people for doing things based on their color. We blame people based on what they end up doing to us. As we look at this Disabilities Act, we see people who are just misusing the law, right?
Wait, they're misusing it, but from the other perspective, they say that they're just being advocates because they want everyone to be in compliance.
And we can agree with them at a certain point, right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. There's a law that's being proposed. It's hung up in the government process that would basically create a stay where they can't, you have to give notice to correct it. And I don't know if that's going to be approved or not, but it can be very helpful to the businesses that are affected by the law.
Would you say, Stacy, that in most cases that are being litigated, that despite the way we understand it, that the law could almost go in either way in most decisions?
A lot of people think that the law is black and white, and people come to my office and say, well, this is I can explain this whole case to you. This is what happened. I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. You would have to file a complaint. There's discovery. There's depositions. There's a whole trial of your own peers, and you don't know how that's going to shake out. And just because you read the law one way, it's just not black and white. It's so gray, and it can be so broad at times. And law is not really what happens. It's about what you can prove.
So once again, we're left with the realization that that it can go any kind of way, and that there is no definite truth, though that there is a truth.
Now, I would stop there. I mean, some people, that doesn't mean that someone to say, well, this is my situation, this is what happened, and this can go either way. It's like, no, you went to the store, you brought out the gun, you're on camera, you have that mark or birthmark or tattoo on your face. No, no, let's not play around. There's some things that have been in the news that are more there for more of like a political purpose rather than a legal argument. Some things are not even a legal argument because it's very blatant what happened under the law.
Or filling space. And as a publisher, I know sometimes it's very important to fill space. And as a radio host, I know it's important to be able to fill space. What we are talking about, though, is that from almost any angle on any argument, most people could get people on their side and could be considered right. That's why I think it's important for us to explore, be willing to talk to people that we don't agree with, be willing to find out things that we didn't think were true are true, get along with each other, because that's just a requirement. Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to you being with us in the future. Miss Tammy, thank you again for keeping things riled up, keeping me in line. I appreciate that. Folks, I'll be in Chicago next week for the reunion. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but we will do it. And we'll do it under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's willing. Two, if the creek don't rise. Mr. Anthony Garcia, the bass mood master, will be playing tonight at Prohibition.
Yes, 7 to 10.
From 7 to 10, that's in Riverside.
And I didn't go last time. I forgot I had a schedule, but I'm going to try to get there tonight.
Yeah, we'll try to get there.
Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Jeff Biggs, and with the World Cup in Wimbledon taking the day off, it's a big day for baseball with the top team in the majors right now, the